One of the final and most important updates for God of War Ragnarok should drop in spring this year, but there are ways in which you can start preparing for that right now. In today's video, we'll focus on some of the most expected changes with it and things you should complete in the meantime to better prepare for the new Game Plus update. And speaking of being well prepared, I got a chance to check out the brand new DualSense Edge controller for the PlayStation 5, and what it does is a complete game changer. Also, a huge thanks to Sony for being the sponsors of today's video. But I replayed God of War Ragnarok with it, and I don't think I can ever go back to a normal controller. The biggest change for me comes with the 2 extra buttons on the backside that you can quickly remap to almost any input. I went straight away with the weapon swap so I can quickly switch between them in combat without having to take my thumb off the camera control stick. Or if you want a quicker access to other actions, you can bind the bow attacks from Atreus to more easily combine them with your own in combat. Also, the adjustable triggers are pure genius. You don't even have to swap out anything, just change the travel distance from the backside and that's it. In first-person shooters and action games, I always prefer a short trigger so I can perform much faster actions. But everything from the DualSense Edge is highly customizable, including the thumbstick modules that are also completely removable. Everything from the controller to its accessories is included in a really neat package for easy switch up. So totally check out the links down below and get your own DualSense Edge controller, and I'll give another huge thanks to Sony for sponsoring this video. But God of War 2018's New Game Plus update added quite a bit of extra content back then, though there's a few things I would like to see on top added in Ragnarok. Like for example, the possibility of getting back the cape that Kratos loses early from fighting with Freya. I can't help but think it's such a missed opportunity not getting it back, given how iconic the look is by now. Even more so in-game, I'm surprised how well it holds up animation-wise and also from a clipping point of view. Yes, there are some armor sets that indeed clip through it because of the larger shoulder pads, but going with the Survivor armor set, for example, or anything less bulky for that matter, makes it look really good. I got a few shots playing with it and I almost feel bad we couldn't keep it, as it probably looks better than many of the existing armor sets. But speaking of armors, God of War 2018 added 6 new armor sets in total for the New Game Plus update, 3 for Kratos and 3 more for Atreus, which were unlockable by progressing through the New Game Plus story again. The most powerful, of course, being the Zeus armor after defeating 3 specific Valkyries in New Game Plus. This provided a damage increase to Kratos at the cost of increasing the damage he received. And the Ares armor, which was my favorite of the two, though this one only buffed Rage at the cost of having lower Rage bar. It would also seem that the skills that you unlock, armor, enchantments, runic powers, and also everything except collectibles or story moment unlocks were kept in New Game Plus so that you could continue from that point on. But you would still have to regain the other ones like the collectibles and whatnot. I feel that the only armor in Ragnarok that is in a similar theme to the previous Zeus sets is probably the Berserker one that we got from the Gravestone bosses. But the question is now, well, we have 23 sets in Ragnarok as it is, pretty much covering all aspects of combat, so what else could Sony Santa Monica possibly add? One of the solutions is just having Transmog armor, and I was thinking of that really awesome cape as being one of them, but maybe they could come in with something else too. I'm pretty sure that the abundance of armors existing kind of prevents some of that, so maybe the change would come just in terms of the better stats. Because in 2018, another change was the fact that more powerful variants of existing armors were added in New Game Plus. And in the previous game, that meant you could reach level 9 with more armor sets than by default. But in 2022, we don't really actually have that problem because all of them reach level 9. So here's a couple of ways in which I can think Sony Santa Monica could maybe let us progress further. One of them is by letting us finally reach and maybe even exceed level 10, as I believe one single level difference is too small and too incremental to make a noticeable change, especially for the increased difficulty. Another one would be to maybe just add plus variants of the existing armors, also like in 2018, where these very versions will start with much higher stats, and again we can also reach level 9 with them, but it's a plus variant, so the stats are much higher than the default version of the same armor. But totally let me know down below in the comments which one of these options do you think we will have. Speaking of increased difficulty, no doubt Give Me God of War feels slightly easier in Ragnarok compared to 2018, especially because of the abundance of great gear and also a lot more viable specs. But I'm looking forward to the plus variants of those difficulties, specifically Give Me God of War Plus. For the hardest ones, even the joggers back in 2018 in the beginning areas started at power level 7 and could easily two-shot you despite having a fully leveled armor. And of course, no doubt, my most expected change is definitely the skippable cutscenes. Yes, I love replaying God of War, but I kind of want to skip over some of the story moments that I already know by heart, so this is definitely up there on the list for me. With that in mind, here's a few armor sets and related attachments that you should probably work towards and have ready as a bare minimum for New Game Plus. Slow time still remains one of the most devastating options for the entire game, so having the Berserker set, the 9-realm weapon attachments, and the slow time relic from Heimdall is something you'll definitely want to strive for. Specifically when also using the final upgrade of Scorched Earth for the Blades of Chaos, this combination results in some of the most insane damage bonus, especially combined with the chest piece in the entire game. Even more so if you combine it with the relic, you can just slow down that time and destroy everything with that attack. And the best part is that you get most of these through the Berserker Gravestone challenges anyway as you progress. But don't underestimate the starting armor either of Survival, as this has the best stat boost in the entire game and gives you a balanced kind of like build that you can branch out in any direction you want to. You just have to maybe combine some of the pieces with some of the other sets or go with the full set and just get an attachment or maybe a couple of attachments and some of the hills that can change the way you play. That or use it as a Transmog. As I've said, it's one of the best fits for that really cool looking cloak. But if you're expecting a touch of challenge in Give Me God of War Plus, assuming that will happen, the Steinbjorn armor you get from the rock statue summons can help provide some of the highest defenses in God of War Ragnarok. I coupled these in a dedicated video a while ago with the Raven tier waist and hands for an even bigger healing factor from the armor, which came in quite handy, especially when going up against large groups of enemies. You could quickly regen that quite fast. That or Lunda armor sets, I'm not going to lie, this was one of the first ways in which I defeated Gna and the last one of the Berserker bosses on the highest difficulty, because poison is so damn powerful in this game. It literally reduces the enemy's power levels and HP and brings it closer to yours, which is basically the biggest factor that makes the higher difficulties, well, more difficult. And there's a final combination, Soul's Armor and the Fatebreaker 2 pieces, both which you acquire towards the end of the main story in Ragnarok. The first one basically gives you a lot of melee damage based on the level of rage that you have, plus the incoming lethal damage is absorbed by the available rage. So much so that you kinda have 2 healing bars, and at that stage it's basically like thousands of HP between the two. You can even go with like 0 HP and just stay with the full rage bar, because this is going to completely prevent any deaths. But this is pretty much it with how you should prepare for God of War Ragnarok's New Game Plus mode. And if there's anything else that you're doing on top, definitely let me know down below in the comments. This is it with the video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.